Black Friday sales are showcasing a number of different video game titles to keep you occupied this winter. One type of game that I always manage to escape, and it always manages to bring me back in, is the MMO. I played EverQuest, Star Wars Galaxies, Final Fantasy XI, World of Warcraft, Aeon, Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars 2, Terra, and Final Fantasy XIV. I even had a dream back in the day when EverQuest the Gold Edition was the current version of EverQuest on sale. And everywhere that I looked in Kansas where I lived at the time, they were sold out. Until I dreamt that one place that was at least a 35-minute drive away, called Hobby Lobby, had it. The next morning I called them up and asked, and they said, yes, we have one copy left of EverQuest the Gold Edition. And I said, hold it, I'm on my way. I even had the pleasure to host Final Fantasy XIV Fan Fest in Las Vegas back about 5 years ago, and I was a cameraman for professional World of Warcraft tournaments back in 2011. The majority of titles I played were on PC, but I did play Final Fantasy XIV both on PC and the PlayStation 4. This review will mainly showcase Black Desert Online, which I was able to purchase on sale. This title was released on PC in 2015, with the console versions released in 2019. In March 2020, the peak player count was just over 37,000, mostly on PC, and the Metacritic score is in the mid-70s. Now, this is typical for this type of MMO. Some people do not enjoy the grind whatsoever. Others enjoy the grind and they're looking for kind of a side life in order to occupy their time. And some people in the middle just want to see what a fun new adventure is like and see what the game and the world has to offer. But there are limitations when it comes to a controller. MMOs are known for having a high number of commands at your disposal. In World of Warcraft, perfecting your rotation as DPS, keeping control as a tank, and healing like a madman takes serious multitasking. Games like Final Fantasy XIV and Black Desert favor more action-oriented combat, but the juggling of different abilities and utilities, even to communicate, is way easier with a keyboard and a mouse. The combo aspects of a controller, however, should not be ignored. Although some games have serious advantages with a keyboard and mouse, there's a certain flow of action and a certain feel a controller provides. For RTS, real-time strategy, or FPS, first-person shooter, a mouse and a keyboard are preferred because of the accuracy you can find within a mouse and the pinpoint accuracy for gunplay, or the incredible accuracy and high actions per minute necessary both with a mouse and a keyboard when it comes to playing a real-time strategy game like StarCraft. But for role-playing games, RPGs, racing games, fighting games, and any side-scrolling or action-adventure titles are built for the feel and the limitations of the controller in mind. Now, when it comes to Black Desert, the combat in this game caters to a controller format. Again, this is the console version, the PlayStation 4 version, with different action movesets depending on your class. I went with a Lawn, a dancer class, which is good for beginners, high mobility, and a lot of group damage. My current build has a light attack by pressing R1 that can be comboed into other attacks using the direction of the right stick. R2 unleashes heavier attacks. O gives me other attacks, especially a swift kick that can knock down my opponents, and you can do more damage on knockdown. And X, I believe, is my ult, which, as you saw at the beginning of this gameplay feature, she flies up in the air and can take off getting out of the fight or into a fight, depending on what you choose. So the mobility is great. With this class, I find the gameplay loop satisfying, taking down large groups of enemies and evading, and you can evade by double pressing in the desired direction of your gamepad. Now I say the pad, but it's actually the directional stick, right or left. Just double tap left or right and you can evade. Now the game itself is running at 30 frames per second, and man, it feels dated. And almost every NPC being a gray polygon golem until the game further loads. It's a smart way to make the experience more streamlined instead of sitting there and waiting for loading times. But the entire time I am reminded just how not optimized of an experience this is compared to PC. Navigating the menu, using the direction pad and holding a button for more menu options is a slick way to allow navigation using a controller. But the speed is hindered compared to how quickly someone can access the same menu options with the keyboard and mouse, or the macros that one can build with all sorts of different keyboard strokes happening in a very quick fraction of a second. The incentives to explore more regions and upgrade your gear is very streamlined, albeit slightly clunky in the experience. And at level 23, I feel I have a firm grasp on what the rest of the main story and level journey will be like, at least for the main part of the game. Now, controllers are cool for controller games. Now, after the initial rush of trying something new, I kept asking myself, why am I playing this game on console when I could enjoy a better experience, a more complete experience on PC? I also remembered how difficult late-stage story quests were in Final Fantasy XIV, using a controller compared to a mouse and keyboard. I appreciate the lengths developers go to include the console market, and the innovation of controller button mapping has continued to be impressive. If you want a really good example of how good PC games play with a controller, try Diablo 3. But the constant fear of missing out on a better version of the game, especially a better frame rate, is too much to truly enjoy this experience. Now, if you want to play solo, see what kind of world this game has to offer in terms of art design and music and a limited frame rate, and you want to look at sexually stylized characters in fancy clothing, then give this game a shot during a sale. But if you feel like investing in an MMO for a season at least, catching up by putting in the grind, being part of a guild, then PC is really the only recommended way. Now, I'll see if the PS5 improved frame rate and additional buttons will help sometime down the line, but I hear the call of World of Warcraft Shadowlands, and I'm doing my best to say no. We'll see. Let me know in the comments, are some games just never meant to be played by a controller? I'll see you online.